EU4 is one of those games that you can play for a very long time and you still discover hidden features and mechanics you never knew existed. Pretty much the same like the fact that there's an actual world outside of your house that you'll very likely never see because you're stuck in the house, aren't you? Yeah, I'm looking at you. Before we even launch the game proper, we have hidden features in the menu here that not many people know of, like the fact that you can choose where the lucky nations are going to be. Lucky nations are nations that get special bonuses, and by default this is set to historical, which essentially means the Ottomans, Muscovites, French, English, and the historical nations that were great powers will become great powers, or at least get the bonuses to help them out. But you can also set this off to a random, which means it's completely random, the nations that get the lucky bonus, and can make for some very interesting games. And speaking of interesting games, here's a button you never clicked, the random new world button. That's right, this essentially replaces North and South America with a brand new world continent. Let's actually do that right now and see what we get in our game. So by default this is set so you don't actually see what exactly this new world looks like, and you have the choice of playing the game and discovering this mystery for yourself, or again go to game options and then you can choose Terra Incognita in lobby no, which means we can now see what's oh my god, what the hell is this? Hold up a second. Why is there a big snake from the south to the north? You cannot actually circumnavigate the world now because of this. Whoa. And yes, you also get special, unique new world nations, and sometimes you can have some truly special nations. Let's check out the religions of these boys. So we have Inti, Totemist, Animist, Mayan. Nothing weird with the religions. No, I stand corrected. We have Norse in the new world. Vinland actually exists in the new world in this game and is ruled by Yipperoy Gebalke. 554 Chad Lord. I honestly feel like I want to play this game right now. One thing at a time, okay? We'll take it one thing at a time. We also seem to have the Burning Empire, which is High American Technology Group Nation. High American is a special type of technology group with some of the best units in the game, and you can only get it if you use the custom new world or the random new world feature. And you know the best part is that you can get achievements, all of the achievements with this custom new world. It's Iron Man compatible, achievement compatible, so you can get it as Vinland or you can get it as the Burning Empire or anything of the sorts. It's up to you who you want to play. If you watch my videos, you probably will know some of the following advices and hidden features that I'll be showing, but even if you watch my videos, you're not going to know exactly what I'm going to say next, because this is going to shock probably a few people. So as you know, if you give out the +1 mana privilege for all 3 of the estates from the very beginning, and that means before you even unpause, by the end of the game you're gonna get 12 to 13,000 extra mana points in that run simply from giving out these privileges. And here's a problem, right? If you give this out, you start with 5% crownlands. Now everybody knows that whenever you take new provinces, your crownlands increases or decreases based on the amount of crownlands that the targeted nation has. But what people do not know about this is the fact that the amount of crownlands that you get when you take new provinces from your enemies also depends on the influence that your estates have. So the less influence they have, the more crownlands you get when you annex provinces. So for example here, fully annexing Magdeburg gives a -2, -2.7, and -1 crownlands owned by the various estates. So if I annex this, what I'm getting is 12.6 crownlands from 5% that I had before. But if our influence is increased by the extra privileges that we gave out whenever we annex this land, instead of 12 point something, we only get 9.4, 3% crownlands less, simply because the estates had higher influence. So in your future games, what you can do is you can give out the privileges after you've got a couple of wars done, so you improve your crownland situation a little bit. It's a bit funny how after watching a million estate parts of my videos, you still probably didn't know this, did you? You see, you don't pay attention, goddammit. It's not because I'd never mention it, okay? It's totally not because of that. I mention it sometimes, to be fair. Next, I want to talk about devastation a little bit. As you probably know, devastation is really bad. You don't want devastation in your lands because, well, it decreases a lot of your stats. And the worst part is that it lowers your prosperity. You want to have prosperity in all of your country because, well, prosperity offers 25% goods produced modifier, dev cost reduction -10, and autonomy change reduction. But aside from that, it's awesome on the map because you see all the green. Everybody loves to see the green. Okay, so that aside, how do we get rid of devastation? Well, some people probably know that you lower devastation by developing your provinces. So there you go. We developed this twice in Benghazi and we lowered our devastation by a lot. It's 0 now. It's basically no more devastation here. Let me refresh the map. But there's another way of lowering devastation really fast without having to use up your mana points. That is, of course, having a fort. Every province that is adjacent to a fort, that means every province that's within a fort's zone of control, will have devastation reduction 10 times higher than a province that is not within a fort's zone of control. So you see here minus 0.9 per month devastation compared to minus 0.08 in Alicante, because Alicante is not in the zone of control of any fort. So whenever you do build your fortifications, not only build them in great defensive locations, but also build them with the idea in mind that you want them to have as many adjacent provinces in their zone of control to lower devastation in the long run. So for example, in Titeri, it would be a perfect location for me to build a fortification, or in Quarseni for that matter, and another one in Hodna. Then I basically covered all of North Africa here. And since we are talking about North Africa, I also want to talk about the trade companies. There's a lot of trade company buildings that are super strong that people don't use, mostly because they don't know they even exist. So my trade company right here, I believe, is in the Guinea area. So the way that this works is these trade company special buildings, you can only have one per state. So keep that in mind. You cannot have 1,000 of these. So choose whichever you want. And I'm talking about the third building out of all 5 of these categories. And they can offer land force limit +5 for your entire country, naval force limit, yearly army tradition, which is a massive deal, by the way. Trade steering again is great, or sailor and manpower increase, as well as minimum local autonomy. The reality is that the trade steering is the best one, especially if you have your trade companies in areas that filter in to your main nodes. So what I mean by this is, for example, if you have a trade company set in Egypt and then you build a trade steering trade company building, you're gonna steer a lot more trade towards your main node, which in my case is Sevilla. So you can end up getting an extra 10 to 15 ducats just from that one particular building. Next on our list, wait, was this a list? I don't think this was it's just random things I'm saying, okay? Just deal with it. I'm judging you too. So yeah, anyway, next on our not list is innovativeness. Who would have thought? I chose my Florence run here because, you know, Florence is a great nation to get a lot of innovativeness. I don't even have innovative ideas, and I have 62 innovativeness. Boom! Take that, innovativeness gang. Most useless idea set in the game is this one right here, because you can still get 100 innovativeness. And innovativeness is a very, very good thing to have, because look at this. It has all power cost minus 10% once it reaches 100%, and tradition decay also is minus 1% once it reaches 100. So essentially, for the tradition part, because your base decay is +5, you can have +4 base decay as consequence, and you can add up to that other modifiers from various idea sets and even national ideas. But the thing that really makes innovativeness shine is that all power cost reduction that I showed here, because essentially this means everything in the game is cheaper when it comes to mana. That means lowering inflation is cheaper, technology is cheaper. So if you have 100 innovativeness, you get minus 10% tech cost reduction. Ideas are cheaper, minus 10% idea cost reduction. Hiring generals and admirals is cheaper as well. Harsh treatment is cheaper also. Not that you should ever use this, by the way. This is useless. Never use it. Stability is cheaper. Stabbing up is a lot cheaper. Reducing war exhaustion is cheaper. Death cost reduction is also cheaper because of innovativeness. And since we are talking about the cheaper stuff, one thing that not many people know is the fact that your ideas unlock your tech cost reduction. So every single idea that you've unlocked gives you minus 2% tech cost reduction for that particular idea group. So because we have 7 ideas unlocked in military and 7 ideas unlocked in admin, then we get minus 14% tech cost for admin. See, ideas minus 14% and minus 14% tech cost reduction for military. Again, ideas minus 14, but we don't have that for Diplo. Look, no Diplo ideas minus 14 because we don't have any Diplo ideas unlocked just yet. Another great thing to know about reducing your technology cost is the fact that once you get Diplo Tech 9, your spies may study technology. What does that mean? It means that go to your tech map mode, and then whenever you see a country that has higher technology than you do, you send your spy over there, and that spy is going to give you tech cost reduction for whatever technology that targeted nation has higher than you. Right now, we have the highest tech, 888. But say, for example, we had 6 Diplo and the Ottomans had 8 Diplo, then that 2 Diplo tech difference between us and the Ottomans, our spy would be giving us a bonus to Diplo tech cost reduction from spying on the Ottomans. Another thing you need to know about spy networks is the fact that whenever you get a spy network in a country, you get siege ability against that country. So that means if you have 100% spy network, you get 20% siege ability, which means you siege those provinces faster. Plus, you also get 10% aggressive expansion impact reduction with that nation. Now, what this actually means is that particular nation gets less aggressive expansion with you. So, for example, if I was to take provinces from the Mamelukes and I had 100% spy network in Tunis, Tunis would get 10% less aggressive expansion with me because I took Mamelukian provinces. That doesn't mean that if I take Tunis provinces, everybody around me gonna get less aggressive expansion. That is not how it works, so keep that in mind. And the last thing about spy networks that I know some people are not aware of is the fact that you can steal maps. It costs 50 spy network, but this way you can discover the world without having to actually use a conquistador or explorer or anything of the sorts. You just need to have an adjacent unit to that area that you're planning to steal the maps for. So I would just need to have, for example, a unit next to North Germany here. I could bring like a ship or anything of the sort. Next is one of the most game-changing features of the game, and a mechanic not many people know about. The fact that you can actually change your tech group. The way that you do this is, well, a lot of nations have the ability to become a horde if they start as a tribe, or if not, you can become a horde by forming Tibet and doing their mission tree. Whatever the choice you go for, once you become a horde, you by default become a steppe nomad, which means that your units are nomadic units and your tech group is the nomadic tech group. All the hordes can reform into kingdoms or republics or whatever the schnapps, right? When that happens, you change your tech group to either Muslim, Eastern, or Asian. This is varied based on your religion. So if you have an Eastern religion like Buddhists, Hindus, or Shinto, or Confucian, all that stuff, then you become Eastern tech group. If you are a Muslim religion nation, then you get the Muslim tech group. If you are a Christian religion, that means Coptic, Orthodox, Catholic, then you become an Eastern tech group nation. You cannot become a Western tech group nation. You will become an Eastern tech group nation whenever you reform from a horde back into a kingdom. So this can be done by any nation in the game. You just have to go through the reformation path, so you just need the reform progress, nothing else. And it's a great tactic, especially for multiplayer and for whenever you feel like your armies are not strong enough for the late game as a horde. Next, let's talk about a few military things that people need to know and that a lot of people are not aware of. For example, the amount of generals that you can recruit, including increases with your land force limit. So the more land force limit you have, the more generals you can get. We can get an extra 3 generals here because we have a massive amount of land force limit. You also get that from power projection as well and from other modifiers, but the land force limit definitely shines, which is why going quantity ideas is absolutely amazing. I mean, we got almost 400,000 manpower and we're getting a flat 100 ducats monthly from playing toll as Lotharingia here. Speaking of military, one of the most important things about your militaries is having a really great morale of armies. Now, how can you have really good morale of armies? Well, that's fairly easy. You can get more morale of armies from your prestige. Prestige offers 10% more morale of armies, as well as aggressive expansion impact reduction -10. Power projection also gives you morale of armies. So prestige and power projection gives 10% morale of armies each whenever they reach 100%. And I know some people struggle with power projection, so here's some things you can do to help you out. Because I only have one rival right now, that is Spain. What can I do to keep myself over 50 power projection, since we want 50 power projection, as that gives us an extra 1 of each mana point? Well, you can see here, sending privateers against Spain offers us 10 power projection. That means because I sent 10 of my ships here to privateer one of the Spanish trade nodes, that's giving me 10 power projection. If we had 3 rivals, we would get 30 power projection from having privateers in all 3 of my rivals' nodes. Other things that influence the amount of morale that you get include your army tradition. Having 100% army tradition gives you 25% morale of armies, as well as some siege ability, manpower recovery speed, and so on, including nobility, loyalty, equilibrium. You can also get more morale of armies from various modifiers, missions. If you're a Catholic, you can also get it from Bless the Ruler interaction that offers 10% morale of armies. You can get another 10% from your Golden Age and another 5% from being the Defender of the Faith. So you probably noticed there's a lot of ways we can get morale of armies aside from the national ideas and the idea groups here. That's why you should never go for defensive. It's one of the worst idea sets in the game. One more secret thing about army tradition is the fact that it also offers nobility loyalty equilibrium for your estates, which means it increases the threshold towards which your loyalty for nobility will want to reach. You can do the same for clergy and bourgeoisie from other hidden aspects, like mercantilism also increases burghers loyalty equilibrium. So the higher your mercantilism, the more bourgeoisie loyalty equilibrium you get, and the higher your religious unity, the more clergy loyalty equilibrium you get. So that means having 100% religious unity gives you 5% loyalty equilibrium for the clergy, 100% mercantilism gives you the 5% for bourgeoisie, and 100 army tradition gives you the 5% for the nobility. One more thing that is oftenly overlooked is the maps. There's so many maps in EU4. Most people just use the political map and a couple of other maps. There's so many useful maps that will help you out in your games. For example, the devastation map helps out so much because it tells you where you need to lower your devastation. The fort level map tells you which provinces are protected by a fort and which provinces are not protected. The simple terrain map tells you which provinces are mountains, highlands, and hard to siege down provinces overall. So whenever you're at war and you don't know the lay of the land, just go to this map before you start the war, see which provinces are mountains, and if there's mountain forts in those provinces, like for example here, be careful whenever you siege these fortifications down, as it can be very dangerous. The supply limit map mode also helps out so much because it gives you an overall idea of what the supply limit is in the area in which you're gonna have the war. And that means, for example, if the average supply limit here is 30, 30, 30, then you want to have around 30 sized armies, because if you have above 30 sized armies, you will get extra attrition for your units. You can go above that, of course, if you can afford it. So that means if you have insanely high amounts of manpower like I do here, then I don't give a schnaps about the supply limit. But if you don't have this much and you're struggling with manpower, make sure your army's size is less than the supply limit wherever you are actually using your units. The trade value map mode tells you which provinces have really great trade value. So all of the green provinces that you see here have very high trade value, which essentially means that it's good to invest in production development in these provinces, as well as in production buildings like the workshops and so on. And one map mode that I use quite a little bit is the opinion map mode. I know not many people use this, but the opinion map mode is vital for dodging coalitions and for knowing what exactly is happening around you. Why do I say that? Well, because you can click on a nation and you can see other nations' opinion of that nation, which means you can tell, for example, when the Ottomans are going to be allying the Gazi Kumuns, or whenever they're going to ally Dulkadir, and so on, because they have high relations with those nations. So if you are, for example, starting in an area here and you want to make sure that the Ottomans don't ally somebody you want to attack, the opinion map mode gives you the idea of what will happen in the next few months / years, so you can plan ahead. You also have the diplomatic map mode, where you can tell by clicking on a nation what exact relations they have with everybody around them. So it can be an alliance, a royal marriage, independence guarantee, or everything of the sorts. You can easily tell all of this by just one click. You don't need to go through all of the detailed information on the screen over here. Some really quick army tips. Whenever you're sieging down a province, you can just click on your keyboard D, and that's going to leave behind the amount of troops needed to siege that province, and you can just continue moving around with the army that you have already selected. Or alternatively, you can press G, unite all the units, and then press S, and it splits it exactly in half. But sometimes half is not enough to siege down a province like this fortification here. One more thing you should know is that if you hold shift and you click on consolidate, it does not kill the regiments. It just reinforces all of the regiments that it can, and then you have left behind some of them with 0 strength, which you can just pull back to the other side of your country until they actually gain back their strength, or do whatever you want with them. It's your choice. I'm using console commands to demonstrate the next point on this video, and I expect 1,000 videos to be made after saying, oh look, proof Ludi cheat, bro, because that's how it is when you take shit out of context. Now, the point is that coring up this province costs us 38 admin points, and it takes 17 months. But if we have core creation cost reduction bonuses, so for example, we can get this temple here upgraded to maximum, which is going to give us an extra 15 core creation cost reduction, or actually I think 10, not 15. Yeah, my bad, it's actually 10% core creation cost reduction. So if we got that, it's going to take us 16 months, and it's 38 admin power to core up, 2 admin power less, and 1 month less. Keep this in mind whenever you're doing a world conquest, because the more core creation cost reduction modifiers that you have, the faster you're going to actually core provinces. So for example, if we have as well, let's say, admin ideas that offer another -25 core creation cost reduction, then it's going to be 11 months and 25 admin. You can bring this down to 6 months with extra core creation cost reduction of modifiers. So imagine this, you are coring every province in 6 months. That means that even though you have 1,000 overextension, no rebels are gonna pop, because in 6 months you core that 1,000 overextension, and it doesn't give enough time for the rebels to actually spawn in. And since we are tagged into an Indian nation, take note, Indians can have up to 5 land rights privileges. So depending on the Indian nation, some of them have 5 estates, and 500 governing capacity extra is a massive deal, because especially for world conquest, it really helps out a lot. And probably the most important thing in the game itself, you should know this by now, in case you don't know though, is autonomy. Autonomy basically decides how much everything you get from that province. So if you have 90% autonomy, you're only getting 10% from that province. That means you're only getting 10% of the income, 10% of the manpower, 10% of the land force limit from that province. You want your autonomy to always be 0 or as close to 0 as possible. That's why you want to make full states, and then after you make it full state, you also want to lower the autonomy so that it is 0 autonomy. Never increase autonomy, even though I hear people saying, oh, you increase autonomy, no rebel. Bro, you want the rebels, okay? Rebels give you a little bit of army tradition, something to do when you're at peace. And by increasing the autonomy, look how long it's gonna take for that 25 autonomy to reduce. Considering it's 0.025 per month, and this can reach, let's say, say 0.25 eventually. It's a lot of years until you actually lower that autonomy to 0 from 25 that you just increased. Just fight the rebels, be a man for Christ's sake, come on! One really hidden tip that I can give you guys is to combine your advisors properly, because there's certain events that can trigger based off of your advisors, like the Radical Reforms event, which triggers only if you have an inflation guy and a trade efficiency advisor. So you need to have these two hired, and within 10 years, it can take up to 10 years for this to trigger. With these two hired, you get this event and it can give you 200 admin, 200 diplo points, and you will have to fire your advisors. You can have them leave the court, or you can literally just fire them from here, and then you don't lose anything, and you can just rehire them afterwards. And this event really helps out, especially in the early game when 200 admin and 200 diplo is of massive help. You also get more events like these from other advisors. You can get discipline, morale, and many other events from advisors. If you guys want, I can actually make a video talking a little bit more about that, because it's kind of a bigger topic overall. And speaking of, I honestly can tell you a lot more things, but this video is getting to be really freaking long. So if you want me to do a second part with more tips and tricks for EU4, let me know in the comments. If we get 10,000 likes within the first month, let's say, I'll do it. If we don't get within the first month, means you're not interested, so I'm not gonna do it. And until the next time, check out this awesome Florence video. And I want to give a massive thank you to all of my patrons, channel members, and Twitch subscribers. I would not be able to do this without all your support. If anybody else would like to also support me, you will find the links in the description.